Hey everybody, it's Master Gallongeist here, bringing you my review for the latest episode of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. The Good Samaritan. And this was a pretty good and eventful episode, I thought. And it really advanced kind of, at least this arc that's been going on, till we kind of get a little break to, I guess, see what kind of the fallout's going to be from the movie Doctor Strange. So, it's continuing on. They're trying to find Eli and Lucy, and they first begin their search kind of at Momentum Laboratories, and it's got May and all them kind of looking around, seeing that everything's been removed, and kind of like the important things that powered the machine have been removed off-site, and they're going to need power and everything to kind of power that kind of thing. So they're trying to figure out where that could be and what's going on with that, and that's kind of one part of the episode. And then we kind of get into the director. There's this little kind of thing that, which I think is tied to the last episode with Senator Nadir, and that he wants Simmons to do something for the senator. We don't know what, and he pretty much forces Simmons to do it, kind of showing that he's being the same kind of director that almost every person's been for S.H.I.E.L.D., keeping things close to the vest, even though he touts this spectrum of trust and all that stuff with all these colors and all that, and it's like a team that trusts is a team that triumphs. Yeah, it does, when you just keep getting the same line from the person at the top and they've got all the cards to their chest. Yeah, that doesn't usually end very well. So, Simmons got a bag over her head and we don't know what's happening to her. That factors in throughout the episode. It fits as like freaking that he hasn't had any contact with her and trying to figure out what's going on with that. So the senator's information to Director Mace with, of course, the Ghost Rider and Daisy pretty much puts him on a collision course to where it centers most of the episode, or a good chunk of it, of him going to the Zephyr to apprehend Robbie and Daisy. And they did this nice kind of thing where before that happened, we had Daisy and Gabe and Robbie kind of talking, and Daisy made it seem that Robbie is an agent of S.H.I.E.L.D., a super spy, and that's why he's been doing all this stuff. So right as Mace is about to get on there, they put him in a power pod and put him underneath the plane, and it was interesting to see the kind of tension that Mace can have as the director going through, trying to find all these things. There's some nice Star Wars reference in there that worked as he's like trying to explain what he's doing, talking about like Han Solo and all that, and how he usually is selfish and is only looking out for himself. And then you get the kind of cool thing where Coulson's like talking about how he liked Admiral Akbar and how he strategically would think about everything. And that was kind of a cool way to that Mace is thinking only in certain terms and in certain ways, whereas Coulson kind of wants to kind of think on a strategic level. Now, granted, he hasn't always done that in the past by letting emotions and trying to get the team together and whole be kind of a top priority. But that kind of works for him because when the team's whole and firing on its cylinders, that's when you've got a pretty effective machine, and that's kind of why you'd want them apart like this, and why them kind of coming together would be kind of cause for concern for, of course, Mace, because how do you handle that group that'll probably do their own thing, vote it on their own ways, and do it? You don't have as much control on them. So as that's going on, we finally get the full story of Robbie and Gabe and what kind of was going on. And interspersed, of course, we get this stuff with Lucy and Eli that kind of fill in the gaps. So he's explaining about how he was going to go on a ride at night, pretty much do another race to get more money and everything. And Gabe was coming home and like, I'll do my homework and all that. And he's like, you shouldn't be doing this. But he's like, hey, come on, ride with me. And we saw another, I gotta hand it to the actor who plays Robbie Reyes. He's able to do a lot with the role, and he does it very well. Because we get a deep understanding of Robbie in the present, but in the past we see a kind of different, kind of more lighthearted Robbie, and it's a kind of Robbie that we hope we get some echoes back from in the present, because he's like, all right, we can do this and all that. And they're driving and they're having a great time, and Eli's Charger and all that, and it's just like, it's great. And they're like, all right, we'll do this. It's kind of dangerous to race with the locals and all that, but it's fine. And then the locos come and hit him, and that was an amazing scene done with what was going on, because the crash looked nasty, and then when they went back and Robbie's telling what actually happened, because they all got hit. Both of them got hit and in pretty bad spots. I'm surprised that Gabe survived with just being paralyzed. And we see that Robbie was thrown from the car and everything, and it was like, oh. And Gabe only thought of it in certain ways, that he's like, you look dead, and Robbie's like, I was dead. And he was talking about how when he was thrown from the car, he was praying to like anything throughout the universe to help them, to at least save his brother and all that. And he did hear a voice, and he's like, do you want vengeance? And he said, yes. And that's kind of what was going on with that point. And Gabe had seen it as a good Samaritan. And what happened actually was, the biggest thing that happened, we have confirmation of other Ghost Riders. I'm going to hopefully say that it is Johnny Blaze as the Ghost Rider, but I didn't get a full good look at the motorcycle, because it could be Danny Ketch. I'm hoping for Johnny Blaze, because what it shows is Robbie thinks it was the devil, but I think the answering entity was probably the spirit of vengeance. And because of the way he was killed and the way that Gabe was attacked, vengeance would be a strong thing going on in his spirit at that moment, and would have drawn the spirit of vengeance. Now, what we see is that Ghost Rider either giving another spirit of vengeance or passing along the spirit of vengeance. We don't know exactly what happened during that scene, other than Robbie was imbued with the powers of the Ghost Rider and a spirit of vengeance and was brought back to life. And that was amazing and cool to kind of see that and tied together. And seeing how Gabe was kind of horrified and learning about how he's killed all these people and all that, and how he's kind of pushing them away from all that, because that's not the brother that he thinks of. And, of course, Robbie would think that he would be happy for vengeance, but Gabe's just happy that he's alive. Even if he's in a chair, he's alive. And that he thought it was great that they both survived it. And that's kind of interesting to see that kind of play between them. So, Mace pretty much figures out what they're doing, and that Coulson technically did not lie to him, and then they bring him up, and he's pretty much stupidly trying to keep going on with what's going on, trying to arrest both Daisy, but more importantly, Robbie. And he just sees him as a killer and nothing else, especially with the Locos that was in the prison that they were trying to get Eli out of, saying that he was going to be released for good behavior, and that was murder. And it depends upon what goes on when Robbie is the spirit of vengeance. Is it Robbie, or is it the spirit of vengeance that's trying to exact vengeance and penitence on these people? That's an important issue, because if it's Robbie doing the killings, that's a different matter. If it's the spirit of vengeance, there's nothing Mace can really do with that. So, he's pretty much instigated Robbie to the point where he Ghost Riders out, and Gabe's like, holy shit, and everybody's like, oh, that should hold him, and then he busts out, and I'm like, yeah, this dude's pretty much a supernatural Hulk. You're not gonna really be able to contain him with the limited understanding and resources that you guys have. So, that when we get a fight scene between Robbie and Mace, that's pretty much one-sided, with Robbie kicking his ass and pretty much almost getting ready to kill him in his fury, vengeance, and state that he was in. And Gabe is telling him to stop, 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 and that's when he finally gets him to stop. And of course, Mace kind of recovers, and like, Coulson pretty much talks to him and says, listen, he might have killed all these people and all that, but he's the only one that we have that can take out Lucy and all that. And that's when they were able to start figuring out that Lucy was going to a kind of old Isodyne place that was then taken over by Roxanne, a dam, and setting up all that stuff to try and make Lucy whole again. But in the flashbacks, we get to start learning more and more about what's going on in that. It's at first shown that Eli was against Joseph doing what he was doing because he thought he was power mad and wanting to be God from creating things out of nothing. But we later find out that Eli had become obsessed with the Darkhold himself and pretty much was the one that did all that, killed all the people and put them into ghost forms and put them in those power boxes, and that when he was trying to kill Joseph, he was trying to get a hold of the Darkhold. And that the hit that happened on Robbie and Gabe was actually supposed to be carried out on Eli. So that's going to enter a wrinkle when Robbie learns of that. So they fly in, they're going in to figure out what they can do to stop what's going on, and Coulson's not able to stop Eli. And Fitz is trying to turn off everything. Eli goes into the chamber, locks it, and gets ready to do whatever was supposed to happen with those power boxes and everything. And it wasn't really clear what they were trying to do with it, because it was one thing to make nothing, something out of nothing, but another matter entirely to, I guess, imbue that power into someone and what those consequences would have. So as that's going on, Robbie's able to get a hold of Lucy, learn the information, and pretty much take her out. And that's kind of where that stops with him. And then Eli's able to use the machine, and they at first were going to try and do EMPs to kind of turn it off, because there's no way to turn it off for some reason. But once Eli does it, we get this effect that a shockwave happened, and we aren't able to see Coulson, and we aren't able to see Fitz. We don't know what's happened to them. But Eli's able to step out and create carbon or whatnot. So he's on a whole nother level right now. Now, granted, we don't know the exact spectrum of his powers. Are they supernatural in nature, or are they more kind of similar to enhancements? I'm going to go with more supernatural in nature, and if that's the case, they're going to have to use their Ghost Rider to possibly take him out in an effective manner. Otherwise, being able to create something out of nothing is probably the starting point for what those powers and those bendings of reality can do. If that's the case, he could depower people, possibly, if that's how his power set can work, or pretty much make himself be adaptable to what's going on. We don't know. It's an interesting kind of thing that this villain is going to be able to do, because he's kind of power leveled real, Avengers tier kind of level. And the only thing that they got that can touch that's the Ghost Rider at this point, because of his resiliency, and is able to just kick ass. So we'll have to see what's happened after the hiatus that we've got. And it's going to be a long wait, because it's really cool. We've gotten all this cool stuff, and it's going to be really cool to see where they're going to be taking this and where these arcs are going to go forward, because it feels like this was a kind of breaking point for the arc, and this is the ending of it, but the beginning of the next step. And that's a really good way to do a show like this, if they break them up and have to adapt to what's going on in the movies. So those are my opinions on the episode. Tell me what you guys think in the comments below. If you liked it, if you didn't like it, if you agree with me, if you disagree with me. Also, like and subscribe, and I hope you have a good day.